Hello, 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 my loves. As always, I hope that this live or this replay finds you well and in excellent spirits. Happy Monday, happy full moon in Scorpio, and welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast live here in the Astro Room on YouTube. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if this is our first time meeting, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. This channel is everything astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my loves. So this is the weekly astro forecast for the week of May 12th through May 18th, 2025. So happy full moon in Scorpio. This is a good one, isn't it? Well, I guess it depends on what your definition of good is, but the energy of this full moon is definitely here. It's definitely potent. And it's so, I'll say this, Scorpio energy can be very complex, right? Scorpio is a sign of depth. And so it's not just about what you see on the surface. There's so many layers and so much underneath the surface, right? Which contributes to Scorpio's complexity. And so Scorpio kind of has this connotation of being dark, right? It represents the underworld, favorite color, black, right? But there's a different kind of facet of the Scorpio energy that's coming through with this full moon. Now, I do moon series videos every 2 weeks where I break down exactly what the moon, the upcoming full moon or new moon is going to look like, right? And if you're new here, subscribe so you definitely check those videos out. They're super helpful, at least I think so. So, while I'm familiar with the astrology of the full moons and the new moons, every full moon has a name, right? And I've never really been too big into them. Like you have the sturgeon moon, the winter moon, depending on, the time of year and things like that. And so I found it quite surprising that the Scorpio full moon, this particular Scorpio full moon, or I should say every Scorpio full moon every year, is called the flower moon. And you don't typically associate Scorpio and flowers, right? You typically associate Scorpio with something that's dark, that's goth, that's sexy, that's sultry. However, it's so appropriate that this full moon is known as the flower moon because inherent in the energy of everything, but particularly flowers, is life and death, the cycle of life and death. And that's why I call this live death, rebirth, repeat, right? The cycle is ongoing, it's continuous. You're constantly regenerating, constantly reinventing yourself, constantly dying to be reborn again, right? But what I love so much about this particular Scorpio new moon, and I dropped a video on it last week. If you haven't checked it out yet, the link is in the description box below. We're still in the energy of this full moon for the next 3 days, so definitely check it out if you haven't already. But the energy of this particular Scorpio full moon is really emblematic of the fact that you really want to focus on what is blooming in your life as opposed to what is dying or deteriorating. And, the fact that it's called the flower moon is because we're in the season of Taurus. Taurus is spring. It's the sort of the essence of spring, right? We have Aries, which ushers in spring. Then we have Taurus, which stabilizes spring. And then we have Gemini, which sort of leads us into summer. So Taurus is the springiest of spring. And so hence flowers, hence blooming plants, all of that Taurus kind of energy. And so with that, this Scorpio full moon is really urging you to focus on what you are giving life to or what is being reborn or what is blooming in your life right now. And that's super important because Taurus season, for some reason, it's always, well, not for some reason. Taurus season is a very fertile time. It's the first of the earth signs. It's spring. It's when we're literally planting seeds. Super fertile. And the thing about Scorpio is that while Scorpio is very intense and underneath the surface, Scorpio shows you sort of both sides of the coin. Scorpio will simultaneously show you what's ending and what's beginning, right? Which is super helpful. However, a lot of times we kind of get sucked into the what is ending part. And that's where we fixate. And that's where we, focus our energy, right? Now, there's a time for that. Scorpio season, when the sun is in Scorpio, that's when we're really focused on what is dying, what has died. That's when we venerate our ancestors and all of that, right? But the Scorpio now is about living. It's about living. It's about thriving. It's about blooming. So, what is blooming in your life? What seeds have you planted? If anything, this Scorpio full moon is going to show you the weeds perhaps surrounding those seeds, the garbage that's in the garden that you need to get rid of. But just because there's garbage, just because there's weeds, doesn't mean that that's what you should focus on. Yes, cleanup may be involved. Yes, there may be things that you have to get rid of. Yes, there may be tough things that you need to face. However, the majority of your energy and effort should be focused on what is blooming. What seeds are you planting? What fertilizer are you using? How much water are you using to plant these plants? Are they in the right position to get the right sunlight, right? Focus on what you want to thrive, not what you don't want. And I feel like that's a very important facet of this particular Scorpio full moon. All right. And so that brings me to the theme of this week, which is sort of along the same lines. And I like to call it Get It Out the Mud. Okay. So we are planting, we're getting dirty. We're actually putting our hands in the dirt to make things happen. Okay. And so again, it's really about this happens every week. I don't know why. I think we should just get used to the fact that I don't know how to work this completely, but whatever. We're getting our hands dirty. We're literally planting the seeds. We're doing the thing. We're doing the dirty work to make these things happen, right? As difficult as it may be, as challenging as it may be, as scary as it may be, we are being tasked to plant and to get it out the mud. Now, get it out the mud has certain connotations, right? A lot of people say that to mean that they've succeeded after a time of adversity or after a time of struggle. What I mean from get it out the mud is, again, Scorpio, there's layers to this, right? And if you watch my Scorpio full moon video, I talk a lot about stability because of the numerology of this full moon and everything that's going on. It's stability focused, which again plays into this whole theme of blooming, right? It's the flower moon. Give energy and effort to the things that you want to see bloom, things that you want to be fixtures in your life, things that you want to be stable in your life. This is what you're giving your energy to. And so inherent in this soil that you're planting is nutrients, it's a whole bunch of things that your seedling needs, right? Wealth is in this fertile soil, right? And that's an analogy or a metaphor for the fact that what you need, the resources that you need, anything that you are planting right now, whatever you need to do for it is found within. There's nothing that you need to look outside of yourself for. Everything is within. The resources, the knowledge, the answers, the motivation, all of that is inherent within you. I mean, think of it this way. When you plant a seed, like an apple seed, right? Within that tiny seed are the instructions of growing, right? Inherent in that seed is the actual fruit. I don't know why this is reminding me of something I read yesterday. This is something I knew already, but I think I was reminded of it yesterday. And it's very, particular to women. So when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, you were already an egg developing within your mother. So your grandmother essentially was carrying your mother and you at like the same time, right? And how there's so much there inherent in that little seed. I mean, at that point, you weren't even a thought. And your mother wasn't even fully formed, yet here you are present in that as well. And so in that seed is everything that that seed needs to come to full fruition. You don't have to tell the apple seed every day. You have to grow into an apple that's red, that grows from a tree, and all of these things. The seed knows that. Inherent in that seed is that, I want to say, codex, right? Is that instruction manual. And the same goes for you. And the same goes for whatever seeds you are planting now. Well, you're not, well, planting seeds in the sense of Taurus season. Obviously, we're not planting seeds at the full moon. This is when, the moon is showing us everything, right? But we are in a time of planting. And so Scorpio, the energy of the Scorpio full moon, it's like it wants you to excavate. It wants you to go down deep and find the wealth, the resources, the motivation, everything that you need to bring that seed to fruition. Scorpio was telling you is within you. I think I call the title of my Scorpio full moon video, Emotional Excavation. So we're digging for diamonds, we're mining for diamonds, right? And so the seeds that we're planting, we're digging things up, we're removing weeds, we're doing everything that we need to do to ensure that whatever we're planting actually comes to fruition. And Scorpio is giving us a full, comprehensive view of sort of everything that's going on with that. And it can be intense. It can be intense. I don't know about you, but today over here, it was gloomy. It was raining all day. I live in Florida. So this afternoon, it was like a mini tsunami was happening, right? And it was just one of those days where you kind of just want to get cozy, spend some quiet time. And that's definitely essential, not only during the Scorpio full moon, but during full moons, period. Because full moons illuminate things, or full moons really they culminate things, right? It's when something comes to fruition. And so whenever there is a full moon, you definitely want to take the time to either rest, definitely hydrate, because the full moon tends to draw a lot of water out of the body. So definitely stay hydrated. But take the time to literally see what the moon is trying to show you. Now, what the moon may be trying to show you may be emotional, right? It may not be something that you see with your physical eyes. It may be something that you're feeling. It may be, things that come up. You may get triggered. There may be conversations that you need to hear, right? And if you're doing all the things, and if you're not present, you'll miss it. And you'll miss everything that the moon is trying to show you. So even though the full moon is today, we still have this energy available to us for the next 3 days. So take the time to get quiet. Take the time to literally assess what the moon is trying to show you. For some, this may be a time of culmination. Something is coming to fruition. For others, this may be showing you what you need to tend to within your garden as we plant these seeds during the remainder of Taurus season. All right. So that is essentially the theme for the week. So now, speaking of the week, let's get into it and see exactly what we've got going on. All right. So here's what we got for the week of May 12th. Okay, so first we have today, which is the full moon in Scorpio. Right. Then we've got Mercury square Pluto, Sun sextile the North Node, Jupiter square the North Node. So the North Node is a major player this week. Then we've got Sun conjunct Uranus, which is going to be very interesting. Then we've got Mercury square Mars and Jupiter sextile Chiron. All right, so let's see what the moon is doing this week. Obviously, we know that today is the full moon in Scorpio. And then thereafter, for the rest of the week, the moon will be in the waning gibbous phase, and it will traverse Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right in. And we begin today with Monday. So, of course, we've got the full moon in Scorpio, and then we've got Mercury square Pluto. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. All right, so at the very top, you will see the sun at 22 degrees of Taurus, and then directly opposite that, you will see the moon at 22 degrees of Scorpio. Back up at the top, you will see Mercury at 3 degrees of Taurus. And then on the right-hand side, you will see Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. All right, so I pretty much just broke down the full moon in Scorpio. If you want to know more, again, that link to my full moon in Scorpio video is in the description box below, so definitely check it out. But again, get quiet. See what comes up, see what the moon is trying to tell you, and go within. I can't say that enough. Go within. That's exactly where all of your wealth lies, where all of your resources lie, where all of your motivation, everything that you need is within. And Scorpio, here's the thing with Scorpio. Scorpio is going to make you do that whether you realize it or not, or whether you want to or not. All right. So just do it. Just do it. All right. And again, check out that video if you haven't already. And then we've got Mercury square Pluto. Okay, so Mercury square Pluto can be a little frustrating. Okay, so Mercury is currently in Taurus. And so, what is the first thing that you think about when you think of Taurus? Is stubbornness, right? Taurus is known for being stubborn and fixed. It's actually the first of the fixed signs in the zodiac. So, when Mercury is in Taurus, our ideas are fixated, right? We could be fixed on one thing. We could have a very narrow-minded view of something. It's like whatever we think, whatever we believe, like we stand on it, we stand on business with it, right? Like we're not easily persuaded. Taurus loves to stay in its comfort zone. And so when it comes to Mercury and Taurus, our thoughts remain fixated. We're not necessarily persuaded. If we have to debate someone, we're really sort of rooted in what we believe or our opinions, right? And then on the other side, we've got Pluto in Aquarius that is all about change. It's all about I wouldn't want to say weirdness, right? But Aquarius is known as a quirky kind of sign. And when you have Pluto there, it's like everything about that wants you to change. Pluto wants you to change. It wants you to improve, right? It wants you to be forward looking, futuristic even. So we have our mind that's fixated or narrow-minded, and Pluto trying to enact change and transformation in our life. And so you can see how these things are kind of butting heads. So this could be a conversation. This could be definitely a conversation because we've got Mercury plus Aquarius is an air sign. This could have something to do with money. It could have something to do with value. It could have something to do with self-esteem. It could have something to do with, criteria that you have for something, right? And this criteria that you really want to stick to. Yet Pluto is like, listen, maybe you need to change this up, or maybe the way that you're thinking about this thing is keeping you stuck, right? Mercury in Taurus, square Pluto in Aquarius, it can really, really show you where you are stuck, stagnant, immovable. And that's important information to know because maybe you think you've been making progress, or maybe you've been wanting to make progress. And this transit is kind of showing you that perhaps you aren't as much as you would like to, right? So it's really important for you to get over this transit, right? To sort of get unstuck, you have to be flexible and you have to really look to the future, right? Things in the future are rapidly, like the future is here, but it's constantly changing. And we see this with, the rise of technology and AI and all of these things. Very Pluto and Aquarius kind of energy. But you have to be open-minded. You have to be flexible. You have to be less rigid, and you have to be a little more spontaneous. You have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. Okay. And while this may be difficult and challenging, ultimately it's for your good. It's for your betterment, right? Because perhaps you don't want to stay stuck. Or even if you do want to stay stuck in the sense that perhaps what you're thinking or your values are important to you and you don't want to waver on them, Pluto may not want you to scrap them all together, but Pluto may want to refine them. And if you're stuck exactly in the position or in the mindset that you're currently in, that refinement isn't going to happen. And it may just cause problems down the line. All right, so remain flexible, open-minded, and a bit spontaneous. All right, so that is Monday. Let's move on to Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we have the waning gibbous moon in Sagittarius. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. You'll see at the upper right-hand corner, the moon is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius. All right, so we move on from the intensity, right? And all of this death and rebirth energy of Scorpio. And we move on to Sagittarius, which is a lot bigger, brighter, and more optimistic. And it's so interesting. I have my TV on and it's got that screensaver and it's showing this big rainbow. And that's so emblematic of Sagittarius energy, right? We go from the depths of the underworld with Scorpio, and then we go to the heights of outer space with Sagittarius, right? So, optimism, big picture. Now, between now, when the moon is full, and 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, when we've got the moon is going to be waning. And when the moon is waning, there's two things that we typically should be doing. Number one, we get rid of things that no longer serve us. It's cleanup time. And number two is rest. Okay. You got to rest. And this is important. And I feel like this is something that even I haven't stressed enough. The waxing phase of the moon, so beginning at the new moon and ending at the full moon, that is the phase of like doing. It's the phase of extroverted energy. To have energy to do the doing during the waxing phase, obviously you need to rest during the waning phase. So, when we're talking about the waning gibbous moon in Sagittarius, if it does not contribute to or direct you toward the bigger picture, you gotta let it go. If you don't feel optimistic about it, if you don't feel passionate about it, maybe it's not what you should be focusing on. Maybe it's not what you should be putting your energy into at this point, okay? Sagittarius, again, big picture. And I want you to remember the glyph for Sagittarius. It's that arrow, right? That's pointing up to the sky. If it's not taking you up, if it ain't up, then you kind of need to just let it go, right? That's where the focus should be. And so don't waste your energy on things that are going to keep you stuck, on things that are going to keep you limited, on things that don't move the needle in terms of the bigger picture. Divest yourself of those things while the moon is in Sagittarius and keep an optimistic outlook on the outcome. That's the best use of the energy when the moon is in Sagittarius. All right, so that's Tuesday. So now let us move on to Wednesday. And so on Wednesday, we've got the sun sextile the North Node. This is actually one of my favorite transits. All right, so let's see what this looks like on the chart. All right, so at the upper left-hand portion of the chart, you'll see the sun at 24 degrees of Taurus. And then at the upper right-hand portion of the chart, you'll see the North Node, which is that horseshoe-looking thing, at 25 degrees of Pisces. All right, so I really like this one, okay? Because when we talk about the sun and the North Node in a harmonious kind of transit, or a harmonious kind of aspect as a sextile, it is about seeing and being conscious of your destiny and being able to notice the opportunities related to that destiny that come up. A lot of times opportunities abound all the time. It's just a matter of whether we notice them or not. But when the sun is sextile the North Node, you notice them. It's like when you have that aha moment, or when you experience something and you immediately know that it's in alignment. It's a very feel-good kind of energy. And with the sun in Taurus, this could really have to do with resources, the resources that you need to fulfill that destiny or to get you to where you need to go, right? It's like you're planning on taking a road trip and boom, all of a sudden your friend says, hey, we could use my car. Or I'm giving you, you could use my car to take your road trip. It's like that kind of thing. So that's a really nice kind of transit, right? It's like, to use a road trip example, it's like, hey, you're on this road trip and someone pays for your gas, right? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, this is great. The opportunity arises. You can always say no, of course, because that's the nature of opportunity. You don't have to take it. We have free will. But you'll be very clear and conscious of these opportunities that get you to where you need to go. All right. So pay attention to where Taurus and Pisces are in your natal chart. This will sort of clue you in as to what types of opportunities or what areas of life these opportunities will show up in. Okay. And I love that the North Node is in Pisces because this is very fated, destined, spiritual. It's angel numbers, synchronicities. All of those things are really, North Node in Pisces. So pay attention. You won't even have to pay that much attention because, again, with the sun sextile the North Node, these opportunities are going to be crystal clear. And I love that because it also allows you to conserve your energy. The sun in astrology represents like our energy level, our vitality, like our life force energy. And when you know what is for you, it's very easy to turn down what is not for you, thereby conserving your energy. So you're not spinning your wheels on shit that's not going to do anything for you. The sun sextile the North Node is like, listen, this is where we're going. These are the opportunities that align with this. Anything that doesn't align, it's going to be like a neon sign where it's like, nope, doesn't work. You don't need it, whatever. So it's really helpful information. All right. So take advantage and try not to. What I'm getting right now is try not to be too like, oh my God, where are the opportunities? Where's the opportunities? Like, you don't need to be like that. Just be chill. Just do what you normally do and allow the opportunities to present themselves. Don't try to force anything, manipulate anything, be overly concerned about them to the point where you're like rigid. Like, just chill and allow whatever is going to come up to come up. Okay? Word to the wise. All right. So that was Wednesday, right? So now let's move on to Thursday. So on Thursday, now we've got a double whammy when it comes to the North Node, because on Thursday, now we've got Jupiter square the North Node. And then we have the waning gibbous moon in Capricorn. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. So at the upper part of the chart, you will see Jupiter at 24 degrees of Gemini. Then at the right-hand portion of the chart, we'll see the North Node again is still at 25 degrees of Pisces. And then at the bottom of the chart, you will see the moon is at 0 degrees of Capricorn. All right, so first let's talk about Jupiter square the North Node. Now, even though it's a square, and whenever we have squares is kind of harsh energy. It's energy that's tense and frustrating. But because Jupiter is like pretty much almost the most positive planet in terms of astrology, even though it's in a harsh aspect to the North Node, it's still relatively positive. I like to think of it as like a blessing in disguise. All right. So Jupiter square the North Node is like, I want to say, being overly optimistic. You know, everything that Jupiter touches expands. And so there could be this desire to really want to expand, especially mentally, right? Because, sorry, my nose is itching. Especially because Jupiter is in Gemini. So this is about lots of conversations. Your mental activity is on 100, right? But what that could lead to is like over-promising, overshooting, overthinking. And in this particular instance, with Jupiter in Gemini square the North Node in Pisces, it's really kind of giving the flavor of overthinking. And it's amazing that I just said what I said before, right? Don't, this isn't the time to be like, so where are the opportunities? Like being really rigid or overthinking something that shows up, right? Trying to over rationalize everything. Because guess what? The North Node in Pisces, it's magical as fuck. It's like unicorns and rainbows. And we all know that our brains, especially if you're an adult here in this world, our brains aren't always fixated on unicorns and rainbows. It's very rigid. It's very logical. It's very, I have to see it to believe it. Meanwhile, the North Node in Pisces wants you to believe it to see it. So if you are overly critical, overthinking, way too mental and logical, you are going to miss the opportunities that are coming up via Sun sextile North Node, which is happening the day before, right? Well, all of this energy is sort of happening at the same time. So don't overthink things. Don't be sitting there waiting for opportunities or over-examining something. It's like, oh, you know, again, to use my road trip example, you're going on a road trip and, you know, if you're lucky enough, you have a parent or a spouse who's like, you know what, I'll pay for the gas the entire way. And you're like, should I take that? Is this the sign? I don't know. Is this really going to help me get to my destination? Are they being genuine? Is there a catch? Like, please don't do that. Please don't do that to these opportunities. Here's the thing. Pisces is a water sign. So it's about feeling and intuition. Get out of your head and drop into your intuition, into your intuitive body. If someone's trying to do something nice for you and it feels off, guess what? It may not be that nice. If someone offers you something and it feels like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. This feels like alignment. Guess what? It's in alignment. Take the thing and move on. Don't question it. Don't overthink it. Don't make your mind do mental gymnastics to determine if this is the opportunity or not. Take the shit and go or drop it. Case closed. Okay? So don't do the most with this. Don't overthink. Also, you know, Jupiter in Gemini, right, can also lend itself to a very, 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 very vivid imagination. And which is not a bad thing. However, like you kind of still need just a sprinkle, a dash of a little reality, right? This isn't the time to overestimate things. Because here's the dichotomy, right? If you're overthinking, if you're overly logical at this time, it's going to limit you in terms of these opportunities. However, if you're like on cloud 47 and you're so out of touch with reality, it could also have the same effect, right? These opportunities, they're either not going to make sense or they don't live up to this extreme ideal that you have in your mind, right? So to use the same example as a road trip, right? You're going on this road trip and in your mind, not only are you not paying for anything, but the car is going to fucking drive itself, right? I know they have self-driving cars, but I'm pretty sure you can't take one from like New York to LA, at least not yet. But that's how you think this thing is supposed to happen. And then you have someone who's like, hey, either I'll drive or I'll pay for the gas. And you're just like, no, because the car's supposed to drive itself and blah, 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 blah. You get what I mean? Like either way, you're kind of fucked because if you're overthinking it, you're going to miss the opportunity. If like overthinking logically, if you're over imagining, it's kind of the same thing. So you have to find a healthy medium between the two, okay? Little bit of reality, but you can't be so rigid. And just don't do the most when it comes to these opportunities. If it feels good, go for it. If it doesn't, don't. Okay? And then that same day, we have the waning gibbous moon in Capricorn. So again, to reiterate, when the moon is waning, what do? We get rid of what no longer serves us and we rest. Now, this can be particularly challenging when the moon is waning in Capricorn because Capricorn is about work. Capricorn is like the workaholic. Capricorn is about status and working hard and diligent work. However, understand that not all work is good work. Some work is busy work. Some work doesn't move the needle. And sometimes you need to just not engage in work at all. You need to rest. So if you have a trajectory, if you have a goal, anything that doesn't facilitate that goal, any work that doesn't move the needle, don't do it. And also take the time to rest. You don't need to be hustling and grinding and doing the most to get to the finish line. Rest helps you just as much as action. And when the moon is waning in Capricorn, that's exactly what the universe is trying to tell you. Okay? So that is Thursday. So now let's move on to Saturday. And on Saturday, we have a very interesting transit. We have the Sun conjunct Uranus in Taurus. Okay. And so let's see what this looks like on the chart. You will see the Sun and Uranus are both at 27 degrees of Taurus. Okay. And so anytime we talk about Uranus, expect the unexpected. Okay. Uranus in Taurus has been like a raging bull in a china shop. It's been like being pushed out of your comfort zone in weird spurts. It almost feels like there's no rhyme or reason to it, right? And you want to pay attention to whatever house Taurus is in your natal chart. This is where you've been experiencing this erratic sort of energy. Now, when we have the Sun conjunct Uranus in a sign like Taurus, it's like you can see the disruption. You can really understand. You have the ability to understand, I should say, where the universe is trying to take you, right? You kind of understand almost the why as well. It's this clarity, it's this truth that comes through. The way that universe works, the way that Uranus works, I like to call it the hand of God because it can be chaotic. It's where we don't have control, where we have to surrender, right? And a lot of times we don't know why. If you're someone who's self-reflective, or if you're someone who's really um dedicated to understanding how things work, eventually you kind of put things together down the line. But what I love about the sun conjunct Uranus is like almost in real time, you're able to understand the why. You're able to see what the purpose of this is, which makes it easier to kind of go with the flow because that's kind of how Uranus works. Uranus is like, listen, this is happening. You can either go willingly, go with the flow, or I can drag you. The choice is yours. But when you have the sun there, it becomes clear why this is happening, or even what is happening and how that plays a role in the bigger picture. Now, this could have something to do with finances. It could have something to do with work, worth, possessions, values, relationships, even to a certain extent, right? Those are sort of the topics where you could experience this kind of upset, but also this clarity as well. So expect the unexpected. Okay. This textbook wise in astrology, this is one of those transits where you could get a windfall of money. Like they love to say that in the astrology texts. Anytime you have Uranus, it's a windfall of money, right? Because Taurus is the sign of finances. It could be, right? But it could just be something surprising, something that really gets you out of your comfort zone and you understand why. You see it as part of a bigger picture. Okay, so I would say beginning on Friday and over the weekend, expect the unexpected. All right, and be prepared to be pushed or dragged out of your comfort zone. Okay, so that's Saturday. So now finally we get on to Sunday. And on Sunday, we've got Mercury square Mars, Jupiter sextile Chiron, and the waning gibbous moon in Aquarius. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. Okay, so Mercury square Mars. So on the left-hand side of the chart, you'll see Mercury at 14 degrees of Taurus. Mars is at the bottom of the chart at 14 degrees of Leo. Then we have Jupiter sextile Chiron. So also on the left-hand side of the chart, you'll see Chiron at 25 degrees of Aries. And then the next red circle, you will see Jupiter at 25 degrees of Gemini. And then we've got the moon up at the top in Aquarius. All right, so let's take this step by step. And first, let's talk about Mercury square Mars. This is perhaps one of the more challenging transits of the week, okay? Mercury square Mars is a little volatile, very opinionated. Remember what I said about Mercury and Taurus? It's fixated, right? It's narrow-minded, conservative thinking even. And I don't mean conservative as opposed to liberal. I just mean conservative in that you're not willing to change or progress in what you think, okay? And that doesn't mean across the board. It can literally mean like one thing or one topic or something like that. You know what I mean. But either way, it's this fixed sort of nature when it comes to what you think or perhaps even what you say. Okay. And Mars in Leo is saying everything with its chest. Mars in Leo is main character energy. Mars in Leo is ready to pop off. Mars in Leo is very passionate. So this is one of those transits that could spark heated debates, arguments, verbal fights, physical fights, even because Mercury is in Taurus, right? Taurus being an earth sign and concerned with the five senses. So this is definitely one of those particular transits where fights could break out, right? But it could be this, I almost feel like under this transit, if you're trying to convince anyone of anything, debate anyone, it's almost like useless. Because it feels like talking to a brick wall. It feels like talking to someone who won't change, who doesn't want to change, who is very fixated on what they think and what they believe. You know, if you need to have a conversation with someone, a serious conversation, I might hold off, because if you're expecting someone to say something or you're expecting a certain reaction, it might not happen. People are going to tend to be very stubborn, very stuck in their ways. So this could cause a lot of friction. It could even cause a lot of anger, resentment, right? Rage even. So with this particular situation, or I should say with this particular transit, try not to argue. It's not worth it. It probably won't end up the way that you want it to. In order to dispel the anger, dispel the frustration, or whatever feelings you're feeling by not hearing what you want to hear or being told, what you want to be told, engage in healthy physical activity. Blow off steam, go for a walk, exercise, run, lift weights, do whatever, have sex, whatever. Physical activity to dispel the anger, the frustration, or whatever it is going to be your friend. Because it's like I'm seeing someone who's talking to someone till they're like blue in the face, and the other person doesn't care. The other person's not going to change their mind. They're not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're not going to apologize. They're not going to see the error of their ways. They're going to be stuck in what they are thinking. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Then that same day, we've got Jupiter sextile Chiron. And so this is good because this can almost be a distraction from this Mercury square Mars energy where you don't want to engage in any sort of debate with anybody, right? Jupiter sextile Chiron is like a strong desire for self-expansion. It's the desire to change. It's the desire to grow and to develop and opportunities to do so. Now, keep in mind, the opportunity could be along the lines of what I was just talking about before, right? Perhaps you wanting to hear someone say a particular thing or you want to convince someone of something is really an opportunity for you to expand your vantage point. I'm not saying you have to outright agree with them or change your opinion to suit theirs. But perhaps you've been limiting yourself. Perhaps you have been thinking narrow-minded even in your own thoughts, or you've been narrow-minded even in your own thoughts, right? That could be an opportunity for expansion. Now, Chiron in Aries is really about independence. It's about autonomy. It's about being able to stand on your own 2 feet, right? And being a warrior for yourself. But Chiron is all about our insecurities. So Chiron in Aries is really showing us where perhaps we're codependent, perhaps where we're not courageous, where we are fearful, right? And maybe the conversations or the situations that arise out of Mercury square Mars is really the universe's way of getting you to be your own warrior, of getting you to overcome fear, of getting you to develop, grow, and expand. So you see how these 2 transits can really work together. They're not necessarily going to feel good, right? Because even when we're talking about personal development and growth, there's growing pains that goes along with that, right? Like expansion requires us to be slightly uncomfortable. And then if you've got arguments and tension and frustration, it just adds to this whole environment of just uncomfortability, right? But that's how we grow. Okay? That's how we grow, and that's how we're able to go from point A to point B. So Sunday is one of those days where while things may be difficult and uncomfortable, it's ultimately for our growth. And then we have the moon in Aquarius, which is actually going to conjunct Pluto. So everything about Sunday, and it's not necessarily just on Sunday. You could be starting to feel this now. This could go into next week. But Sunday is going to be the day when it hits a crescendo, right? Because the moon is literally going to be sitting on top of Pluto. So everything is going to be about transformation. It's going to be about, okay, you don't have a choice here. Not that you don't have a choice, but the universe is really trying to up-level you. The universe is really trying to get you to change, to transform, to grow, to move past where you are. And a lot of times that is done via adversity, via difficulty, via obstacles, via emotions like anger, frustration, and rage, right? Don't just sit in these feelings, stewing in them and saying, I'm angry. I can't believe they did this. I did that. What is the situation trying to show you about yourself, about your life, about your circumstances? Use that energy of anger, of rage, of frustration as fuel to change. Otherwise, you're wasting it. And you're wasting the opportunity that the universe is giving you. Especially if you're in a season in life where you really want change. You want things to be different. You want to experience different things. But you end up getting caught in these cycles of anger, right? You end up fixating on what isn't working, what isn't going right. All of the things that aren't going right is the universe showing you what needs to change, what you need to do. And so then you need to do it. The thing about Chiron and Aries is like, listen, in order to be fearless, which is part of the energy signature of Aries, you have to confront things that you are afraid of. You have to do it. Remember, Aries is a sign of doing. You can't just. Giselle Lawrence says, there's nothing you need to look outside yourself for. It's all within. So very true. Yes. And the universe is always reminding you of this. You know, Aries is doing. So do the thing. Do the thing that scares you. Have the conversation. Take the step. Write the email. Overcome that fear. That's how you work with your Chiron energy. You go through it. And with Chiron and Aries, you got to do it. Okay? So yes, you may be encountering adversity. Yes, you may be encountering things that suck. You may be encountering things that are hard, that are difficult, that are frustrating. Don't fixate on that. Fixate on what that situation is trying to show you, either about yourself, your life, or your circumstances, and then do something to change it. It's a very powerful way to end the week. It may not feel powerful in the moment, but the way that the universe works, you ask for strength, the universe will give you situations where you can display that strength, where you can develop that strength. Okay. So ultimately, we end the week on a rather empowering note, which is always a good thing. All right, my loves. So that concludes this edition of the weekly Astro forecast. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into this week. All right. And enjoy the energy of this full moon and everything that it has to show you. And speaking of moons, if you are interested, you'll definitely want to get my lunar living starter pack. So if you want to know how to start tracking the lunar cycles, how to use the energy, how to work with the moon in real time in your real life, then definitely click the link in the description box below. It's absolutely free. It's a great tracking tool to get you to understand not only how the moon works, but how you work in relation to the moon. It's really dope. I love it. I use it. Hopefully you will too. Link is in the description box below. All right, my loves. Thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the absolute best for this week and beyond. And I will see you next week. Same time, same place, same great information. All right, my loves. Take care.